Hey there, this is the Top Floor Please podcast, where women in leadership rise together. I'm your host, Melissa McCormick, executive coach and founder of the Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. This is your space to find clarity, grow in confidence, and lead with bold authenticity. Whether you're navigating the boardroom, building your team, or stepping into new territory, you're not alone. Let's talk real challenges, real growth, and real leadership, because the top floor isn't just a place, it's a mindset. All right, let's get started.
All right, welcome back to Top Floor, Please. Today we are going to talk about that that situation that you tend to be in when you walk into a room and you are the only woman. So this used to happen to me quite frequently, and I'm sure that if you're in a male-dominated industry, that it happens to you as well. So I really wanted to talk about how to lead from that space with strength and grace. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa McCormick. I'm the owner of Grace and Salt Leadership Academy, where we help women find their voice, speak up, build confidence, and make that bold impact that only they can make in their organization. So when we talk about walking into a room where you're the only woman in the room, how do you lead from that space? I've been there, and typically what I would do, it took me a long time to get comfortable with just being the only woman in the room, but also leading in that room. So if my boss were with me, I would always take second fiddle to him. And partly because he was 6'7", 6'8", whatever, however tall he was a very, so much taller than me, but also he was my boss. And so I felt that I needed to take a back seat. Now, he never once told me to do that. In fact, I bet you if he listened to this podcast, he'd be like, you did what and why? Like, why wouldn't you have felt comfortable speaking up? And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was society. I don't know if it was me. It was me. Obviously, it was not him. But for some reason, I always took the back seat, right? So he was Batman, I was Robin. And it took me a long time to get comfortable to actually participate as a leader, as an equal to him, and not to his second or his wingman or whatever you want to call it. If I were in the room by myself and I was leading it, I had no problems at all. But when he was with me, I absolutely would take basically a figurative step back. So I want to talk a bit about that and how to avoid that or to not do that, because that was me. That was not him. He never once told me that. He never once wanted me to do that. In fact, I guarantee you, in fact, I can think of 2 or 3 situations where he wished I didn't do that. But that is what I did. So I just want you to know this. I want you to know that you do not have to be the loudest person in the room. Like, you do not have to be louder to be powerful, but you do have to be centered. So I'm going to give you 3 strategies today that we're going to talk about on how to be centered, right? How do we walk into that room of all men, whether you're with your boss or whether you're by yourself, either way, how do you do that? And so the first one is to lead with presence, not performance. Again, you do not need to be the loudest, but you do need to be intentional. How you walk in, how you speak, how you listen. Presence speaks volumes. So what do I mean by that? Well, okay, I'm in this office. So how do I walk in? How do you walk in? You walk in with your shoulders back and you have a smile on your face. You've got your briefcase or your computer bag or your portfolio or whatever it is that you're taking notes with, your cell phone, whatever it is in your hand, and you are welcoming. I don't care if the meeting is a negative meeting. I do not care. You walk in and you walk in with presence and a welcoming demeanor. So let's just say that you were going into a customer meeting and it was a bad one. Like, you've got quality issues and you now have to explain what the organization is going to do in order to fix these quality problems. Okay, no, fine. And you also know that the customer is going to come unglued, like they are going to come at you. And rightfully so. So how do you address that? Do you come in, kind of with your tail between your legs? Okay, okay, okay. No, you don't. You still walk in, head high, shoulders back, proud, welcoming, not arrogant. Don't get me wrong, not arrogant, but walking in with a presence that I'm here to listen to what you have to say, and I'm here to share with you the information that I have to share, and I will share with you everything that I possibly can, and I will take everything that we've talked about, action plans, accountability, all of that, back to my organization. I will do that. So when you do that, I just want to give you a tip here that I found. I did this technique. I didn't know it was a technique, but it was very powerful. And so I want to share it with you. And that is that when I was in a room of mixed people, this could be department, it could be internal with departments, but primarily it was whether my company was coming in to a different company. It could be a supplier, it could be a customer, it could be a partner of some type. But I would always try to sit either at the head of the table, not for a power move. That was had nothing to do with power. It had to do with the fact that usually one company sat on one side and the other company sat on the other side. And it was, I don't know, it was uncomfortable. It was like conflict, like it was us against them. And I didn't like that. So I would typically sit at the end, like the head of the table or the foot of the table, because then I could be advocating for both sides. And it was more like we were in this together. We were partners and that we were collaborative. Even if my company had screwed up and I needed to fix it for the customer, I was there to fix it for the customer. But I wanted them to know that. I wanted them to know that I was on their side. The other thing I would do is I would sit on the other side of the table on purpose so that I was on their side. And I did that on purpose. So just think about that when you're thinking, this is about being strategic and it is not manipulative. This is about trying to demonstrate, because you could say one thing, but they're going to hear or whatever, they're not, might not believe you. But if you're on their side of the table, or you're close enough where it's more collaborative and it's not so much we and them, you're going to get a lot further than if it becomes contentious and then it's our company against your company. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? So that was a really big tip that I could give you that I hope you take, because it really was a great technique and it did work really well when it came to conflict. Okay, so number one is leading with presence, welcoming approach, welcoming, I can't think of the right word, but just approach, I guess, atmosphere, that type of thing, welcoming demeanor. That's the word I'm looking for. Okay, the second one is don't shrink or overcompensate. So don't be this this larger than life person that really isn't you, because sometimes with women, it doesn't come across the way that you intend. It might not be fair, but it's the truth. So I don't want you to shrink back like I used to do with my boss. I don't want you to overcompensate. I want you to be you. I want you to be clear in your communication. You don't have to downplay your voice. You don't have to say, well, this might be a stupid, I hate that. This might be a stupid question, but, can I ask a question? Of course you can. You're an adult. Ask a question, right? Don't use those fillers, those I don't know what they're called, but those disclaimers. Don't use those. Try to get those out of your vocabulary. But I do want you to speak with clarity and conviction. I want you to practice. If you're a fast talker, I want you to practice slowing down. You don't have to downplay your voice or go into prove it mode. Just speak with clarity and conviction. I want you to listen when you're sitting in some of those boardrooms. The chairs are those big, oversized, like leather chairs. And for women, when we sit in them, we do look smaller. Even though we're sitting up straight and everything, we do look smaller. So how do you overcome that? Well, I want you to sit on the edge of the chair instead of in the back of the chair, right? Just sit on the edge of it. If it's one that can raise up, raise it up. It's important for you to be on an equal playing field. I mean, everybody in the room is going to agree we're all equal, but actions speak louder than words. It's not really body language, but it is how you appear. So if you appear smaller because the chair is big, then you're going to appear smaller. And even though you might be, you might be the president in the room, but you might appear smaller if you appear physically smaller in the chair. Does that make sense? So I want to be sure that you're thinking about that. Look at the chairs, figure out where you're going to sit on the table. Be strategic about this. Talk about it with the team that you go with. Serious business. You need to figure that out. It's very important. There's one more thing that I was going to tell you about that, and I can't remember, so I'll come back to it. The third and final strategy that I want to talk to you about is anchor to your values. What does that mean? And that means that when you lead from your values, you're never off course, even when the room feels unfamiliar. Okay. So when you walk into that room and it's filled with men or people that you don't know, typically if there's a woman in the room, you guys will kind of give each other, look at each other, smile, and that kind of lessens the tension. But if there's all men in the room and it's a negative kind of topic, then it does get super uncomfortable. So I want you to anchor to your values. And if you aren't sure what your values are, I will be doing a podcast on how to figure out your values. Very simple technique that I learned from a business coach that I'm going to share with all of you. So stay tuned for that, but that will help you figure out what your values are, because I think you do know them. It's just actually figuring out how do I figure that out? Like, I think I know, but my values could be a list of 20 and I want you to narrow it down to 3 to 5. So, okay, so let's go back here. All right, so how do we walk through, what are these 3 strategies? I'm going to summarize them. One is I want you to lead with presence, right? So remember, lead with presence. That was the other thing I was thinking of, is when you're listening, because I want you to be an active listener. I want you to put your phone away. I want you to take off your Apple Watch, because you might not realize it, but every time an email comes in and it pings you, you're looking. It is very distracting to the other people, and it could be misrepresented. Like that, the other people in the room could be thinking, what? I'm not important enough for you? Okay, so I want you to put that Apple Watch away, or whatever kind of watch you have that is connected to your device. Put it away. And then when you're listening, I want you to lean in. I want you to seriously be 100% present. So lead with presence, number 1. Number 2, I don't want you to shrink or overcompensate. Don't just talk to talk because you think you need to participate in the conversation. I want you to be intentional with how you share and what you share, and do not shrink. And 3, anchor to your values. When you lead from your values, when you lead from your heart, you never can go wrong. Now, a boss of mine told me that, and I live by that. So here is your coaching moment for this time. I want you to think about this. So you're not in this room by accident. You were placed there on purpose. So I want you to stand tall. That's what the Esther Project is all about. So Esther Project, I haven't heard of it, it's my signature program. It's a 12-week online group coaching program, and it's all about we don't talk about Queen Esther, but that's a biblical Queen Esther from back in the day. I don't even know what day, but a long time ago. And it was all about, she was at that moment in order to save the Jews. And so I'm saying that you are not in that room, whatever room, by accident. You deserve to be there. You were physically placed there on purpose. So switch your mindset and remember that. So before your next meeting, I want you to take 60 seconds to center yourself. I want you to breathe through your nose and out your mouth. And I want you to remember you were placed there on purpose. Ground yourself in your values and remember that you belong. Well, if these have helped you grow in your leadership, I want you to share this podcast with another woman ready to rise, or a man. And if you're ready for deeper coaching, explore the Esther Project and Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. Just go to graceandsaltleadership.com. All right. Well, it was a pleasure chatting with you today, and I can't wait to hear about your successes. So please share them, share this podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, I need you to subscribe. The more followers we have, the more the algorithm will reach other people. Thanks so much, and have a fabulous day.
Thanks for hanging out on the top floor. If today's episode gave you something to think about or a little boost, share it with your friend and keep the momentum going. And hey, if you're ready to find your voice and lead with clarity and confidence, check out the Esther Project. It's our foundational program at Grace and Salt, and it's built for women like you who are ready to rise. You can learn more at graceandsaltleadership.com. I'll drop the link in the show notes, and remember, you don't have to lead like everyone else, just lead like you. All right, I'll see you next time.